This gospel gives us two people, two men, the Pharisee and the tax collector. And this gospel should really open up our eyes, because throughout our life, there is always a little Pharisee or a little tax collector inside each one of us. The question is, which one are we feeding? Which one is at work in our actions and in our words? If we take the Pharisee, for example, this is a man who is respected by others. And we see here it says he took his place amongst the temple, meaning that he stood and raised his head high. But yet he addressed the prayer to himself, not to God. And this Pharisee, his spirit, in a sense, is alive very much in our culture, because, how often do you see people pretty much speak so highly of themselves in a sense of like, whoa, look at me, right? If we were to build a statue of this Pharisee in this day and age, it would probably look like this. Right? Yeah. Because pretty much that gesture pretty much says, like, look at me, look where I am. Oh, look at me, look what's behind me. Right? Vacation pictures are no longer with the whole family. Now they're like, just one person, just like, no, look at that. That's the ruins of, the Greeks or whatever. Pretty much, in a sense, looking at like, look at me in this important place, where if you go to somebody's house who's been around longer than the last 25 years, you'll see pictures of vacations, but you'll see the whole family in the picture. Or you'll just see the thing themselves of what they're taking, not very much them in the picture. Because mostly it used to not be about the single person, where they are, where they've been. Those stories were shared pretty much in person during times of dinners or gatherings. But this inner desire to be seen and known everywhere, that is the desire of the Pharisee, pretty much telling himself, not God, to look at me, look at all this. Look how cool I am, how much better I am than everybody else. Right? And we know those kind of people in our life. They're more of the aggravating kind of people. We tell them they're full of themselves. We know them. But what we don't like about them mostly is the fact that we see a little bit of ourselves in them, because we know at times we could be full of ourselves. And so there's a little Pharisee in each one of us. The tax collector, someone who is hated by pretty much everybody, right? Tax collectors are still hated today. Not so much the person themselves, more of like what they're doing. There is a little tax collector inside each one of us, but yet it can be more difficult to see that person in our day and age. That person that recognizes the very reality that we're only here because of God's love, because He wills us to be here. There is no other reason why we are here. There is no other reason that we came into being other than that God willed it. And yet we have not lived our life according to the gospel. Now, many of us, we try. We try the best we can. But yet we find ourselves going to confession often. We most likely find ourselves confessing the same sins over and over again. There's nothing wrong with that. That is the spirit of the tax collector at work within us, to come face to face with the church, with the person that Jesus Christ has chosen to operate through, to provide, to give His grace, and to mention things that you don't want to mention to anybody. That's the tax collector. But yet, The tax collector shouldn't only be at work in the confessional. The tax collector within us should be at work each and every day. It is the tax collector who doesn't hate himself. That's not what he's doing. But he's recognizing the vast power and majesty that is God before him, and the fact that he needs a Savior. One of the worst things we can do is to assume that we do not need a Savior. But sure, confession reminds us that we need one. But how much more in our life, if we were to recognize the need for a Savior each and every day, will we make second thoughts when making choices? Will we consider things of eternity when making choices? Will we consider the love of God when we make choices? And so the struggle in life is the balance between keeping the Pharisee at bay and recognizing the humility of the tax collector within each one of us. So this week, take a few minutes to really think about which one you're feeding, because it is the one that we feed is the one that comes alive and expresses itself through us towards others. So yeah, you probably interact with Pharisees more often than you think. And there are most likely times where you've encountered the tax collector and it has gone unnoticed or kind of put into the background. But this week, ask which one you are feeding, which one you are giving more attention to. Ask for a spirit of humility, not humiliation, but humility. And the Lord will provide opportunities for the Pharisee within you to be run off and the spirit of the tax collector to grow and to be exalted. So let us do that this week. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to God. So we don't run the risk at the end of our life going up to the gates and pretty much going to the front of the line with like an attitude of the Pharisee. Oh yeah, look at me. Yeah, my name should be on there, Peter. Just take a glance. It might be hard to find. Just let me in first so that you can find it later. I'm sure none of us want that attitude, because I'm pretty sure we'll be shown a different door. And we're not going to want to walk through that one. So we owe it to ourselves, not just today, but tomorrow and the day that we enter eternity.